Hello and welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm Aaron Chapin, president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. I'll be serving as your host this week. Today we're going to be talking with a Lancaster educator who's going to be talking about how he engages his students to learn about a group of people that have been deliberately left out of the history books. And then we're going to talk to a leading Pennsylvania pollster. We're going to be talking about what people are thinking as we get closer to election time this year. All that and more coming right up.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host.
So our first guest is Dr. Todd Mealy. He's a social studies teacher at McCaskey High School in Lancaster. Recently, the Pennsylvania State Education Association, we presented Todd with a Human and Civil Rights Award for his work educating his students and getting them to be more engaged and informed citizens. He's here to talk to us about an innovative project that's honoring the history of people in the city of Lancaster. So, Todd, welcome to the program.
Aaron, thanks for having me on. And speaking of that ceremony back in May, you put on a good show. So
we appreciate it.
Hats off to the team.
Thank you very much. Well, before we jump into this great project that you have, tell us a little bit about your journey. Why did you choose a career in education?
Oh, well, I didn't enter college, kind of like yourself, to become a teacher. It took me a year to figure it out. I always wanted to major in history. And at the same time, I started to coach high school football while I was a college student. And that seemed like something I wanted to do over the long term. And so it took a little bit of convincing, but by my sophomore year, I enrolled in the education program, and the rest is history.
Well, sometimes being an education major, it finds you. You're not actively seeking it out. So let's talk a little bit about this great project. It's called the Witness Stones Project. Can you kind of describe what this project does?
Well, the driving forces of the Witness Stones Project are the people at Historic Rockford. Christina McSherry, Pam Stoner, Deb Smith, Sylvia Kavanaugh. They reached out to me a couple summers ago. I think it was the summer of 2023. They knew a little bit about my background doing history work. And they said they wanted to do the work of researching Edward Hand, a right-hand man to George Washington, Lancaster's Revolutionary War hero, and research his ties to slavery. And they reached out to me because they wanted to see if it could be something that could be incorporated into the high school level.
Sure.
Like we can work it into the curriculum. And I was on board. I had a little bit of background experience working on a similar project at Dickinson College. And so I jumped right on it and became their curriculum director. And now we're about to enter our third year in the program. So what we do, I guess to your question, is we research Lancaster City's enslaved population in the 18th century, the Revolutionary War era. And we try to develop as much biographical information as we can. We develop biographies and projects that we showcase to the public, and then we honor them through the placement of witness stones all throughout the city.
Really interesting. And I hear we've got some pictures that we can show while we talk a little bit more. So real quickly, what does that look like on a week-by-week, monthly basis in the school setting? What's that look like?
I teach a number of classes where coincidentally and fortunately, this work ties to the curriculum, a U.S. history class, an African American studies class, a research class. And so it kind of integrates smoothly in. And so I'll spend the first semester, the first part of the year, from the start to about the new year, just teaching the course. And then when we return from the New Year break, then I'll spend January and February doing the Witness Stones curriculum with the students. And so we're spending the fall, the people I mentioned and myself collecting information, and I put together a resource packet that I'll give to the students when we return after the New Year break.
How many stones have been put down so far?
So we put down 12. The objective by the time we finish at the end of this year will be 75 throughout the city.
And real quickly, what's it been like for your students as they've been doing this? We can talk a little bit more, but what's it been like for them to do this?
I think this is the kind of work that matters in their lives. It presents to them an opportunity to fulfill something for the city.
Yeah.
It's meaningful work, in other words. We had coincidentally a Witness Stone ceremony yesterday.
Okay.
And one of the students spoke at it, and she talked about how this kind of triggered the importance of service, particularly service to the community, as opposed to just being something else that they do in school, and on top of the workload that they already have. And now they're going out in the city and they're putting in these memorial stones that are going to be there for all of time. And that provides, it reinforces the message about, giving back. And I think that's a piece of this Witness Stones project that not a lot of people think of, because we're in the schools, but we're working with school community groups and city community groups and other teachers in the school, and it's just meaningful for all of them.
We're going to get a little bit more, drill a little bit deeper down into this when we come back. We're going to have to take a break, though. When we come back, a little bit more with Dr. Todd Mealy and the Witness Stones Project.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
And welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm Aaron Chapin. We're here with Dr. Todd Mealy. He's at McCaskey High School in Lancaster. He's talking to us about his work with his students, including the Witness Stones Project. Let's go back to some of the work that you're doing with the students.
Sure.
I hear that there's a variety of projects that they had to do, a biographical project, films, portraits, sometimes original songs. Obviously, the kids have a lot of latitude when it comes to these projects. What really impresses you and amazes you about those projects?
We give the students the freedom to choose what their biographical project looks like. But in addition to the documentary films that these students have created, we also have a lot of artwork that's done. And one project that sticks out to me that was done this last year was clay art that had like a water feature to it. And the student produced it to then give it off to a local organization to go on display. But what the students know is that they are trying to create something that's going to be made for the public.
Amazing. So you describe this as work that's like in the movement you call spatial justice. Can you briefly explain what you mean by that?
Well, when we talk about spatial justice, we're looking at, Aaron, human-made spaces. And in that context, urban landscapes.
Yes.
And in the context of an urban landscape, spatial justice assumes that spaces are socially produced. And if they're socially produced, they're being created by a dominant power that is largely out of the control of the masses, the people. Political motivations, economic interests, the cultural environment at large, that people have no control over. And if that's the case, then spatial justice is assuming that there's going to be a group of people or several groups of people that are treated unjustly or perhaps oppressed within that space.
Gotcha.
So it becomes contested space. Typically, we look at like mobility and transportation. We look at housing, education, school borders and busing from school to school, for house to school. We look at access to green spaces and grocery stores and hospitals and pharmacies and those things. Public memory, erecting a statue, putting up a monument, naming a street is part of that spatial justice movement. That contest over whose story is being told, who's harmed, whose benefits, or who's privileged in the space. And so what the students have done is they figured out a simple formula when it comes to public memory. And that's that if you have a motivated group that can raise money, then a statue goes up. And so they know that at some point in history, a public memory memorial statue is going to be contested.
I understand. So then let me ask you this. So like you're putting these stones around Lancaster. What do you want people, as they were like walking past, what do you want them to be feeling or thinking?
Like that's the question. So and I want you and your viewers to think of it like this. You have the difference between a temple and a forum. And so when we're looking at statues, we typically think of things that are on pedestals that are raised up. We look at them in reverence. All the dirt and everything is kept away from them. But the message is fixed. You know, think of like going to the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Everyone goes there to share the same thought about what they're looking at. What we're doing is more of the forum. It's part of the counter memorial effort, which is monuments, memorials that are open-ended. The viewer, the onlooker can walk amongst it. They can engage with it. It's open for interpretation. Not everyone shares the same thought. And so when anyone walking through Lancaster City takes a look at that, Lancaster prides itself on its Revolutionary War, 18th century history. That's what we've kind of carved there. But a lot of that was made possible because of human suffering and stolen labor. And so when they encounter one of our witness stones, we want people to know that more than the Revolutionary War icons that we have in the city, we had people that contributed to the makeup of the city and challenged, you know, those founders about what freedom and democracy really meant.
And we got like almost out of time here. You've been busy with a professorship at Oxford. You've been writing a book on Muhammad Ali that's coming out soon. Obviously, this feeds a lot of what you do in and out of the classroom. Real quick, last minute thoughts?
Well, I have a really supportive wife and family, Melissa, Carter, and Addie, and the administration at McCaskey is really open to allowing me to use, you know, the what I do outside the school. To try to benefit the students inside the school with the course load that they give me.
Well, this is a great project, and I'm thrilled to really let everybody out there learn more about this. They should go to Lancaster and check it out. Thank you for all your work in our schools and with our students. It means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me on.
When we come back, we've got a Harrisburg polling expert. They're going to be talking about how Pennsylvanians are feeling going into this upcoming election season.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, visit crossstate.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm Aaron Chapin. Our next guest is James Lee. He's the president and CEO of the Susquehanna Polling and Research. Jim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to be with you.
Well, Susquehanna Polling and Research, it's been around for a while. I think 25 years now, and you've been looking at public opinions and doing polling with it. We've got a graph that we're going to put up there as I get into this first question. What's the mood like out there right now with our Pennsylvania voters?
It's sour. Would be the best way to describe it. According to the graphic that the viewers will see, a majority of Pennsylvanians continually over the last 25 years say the state's headed in the wrong direction, regardless of who's in power. And I think it's because we have divided government and state government. We're one of 11 states that has divided legislature and a governor's office. And I think that means to a lot of people, there's gridlock in Harrisburg. We always see late budgets. They're thinking there's more that can be done to improve the direction of the Commonwealth.
Well, recently, you did a poll in conjunction with PSCA, which I'm the president of. You talked with Pennsylvanians about several policies that are part of Project 2025. For our viewers out there, can you just briefly explain what Project 2025 is and what you found in your polls?
Sure. Project 2025 was basically a brainchild of the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank that basically has as its mission a smaller role for the federal government. The polling that we did shows Pennsylvanians, by and large, do not approve of the key mandates in that policy prescription. They're against cutting federal spending for education and a host of other issues that we can talk about, Aaron.
Well, what are some of those policies that Project 2025 was looking to basically dismantle in the state? You mentioned that real quickly.
Well, yeah. First and foremost, the key item in their #1 page, written by Lindsey Berg from the prescription, is elementary and secondary education should be limited, and ultimately the Federal Department of Education should be eliminated.
Okay.
And voters do not support the elimination of the Federal Department of Education because they see it as having a fundamental role and don't want power shifted back to the states, which is a big deal.
Well, did I read that right? Is 80% said they were opposed to that?
80% say they're opposed.
That's amazing. First of all, I'm not a pollster. I'm an elementary school teacher. It's not my specialty, but like 80% seems like a really high number to get on a poll.
Well, it is, and when you have support at 80% for any initiative or opposition at 80%, it really means you have bipartisan, broad-based support across the political spectrum for all types of demographics. And that's important at 80%. You just don't see a lot of numbers that get that high.
So obviously the vast majority of Pennsylvanians don't want to see a cut when it comes to funding from the federal government for education. What about, I know some of the polling also talked about, whether or not schools or the playground should be designated as basically hands-off from immigration enforcement. What did your polls tell you about that?
Well, 66% of Pennsylvania voters, Aaron, believe that school zones and school property should be off limits for ICE agents. And I think voters really look at schools as a safe space. They really do. And they look around the news media. They see questionable shootings by ICE agents. I think most Pennsylvanians believe, with children concentrated in school grounds, this is not an appropriate place to have confrontational interactions between ICE agents and suspected illegal immigrants.
And obviously, I've spoken with a lot of educators and support staff, as well as administrators. They feel the same way. And it's amazing to see what Pennsylvanians are thinking and agreeing with us. We've got a lot more to dig into. We need to take a break, though. When we come back, more from Jim Lee of the Susquehanna Polling and Research.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania American Water. We keep life flowing across the Keystone State.
And welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Again, I'm here with Jim Lee of the Susquehanna Polling and Research. We're talking about a recent poll that he did in partnership with the Pennsylvania State Education Association. So I want to touch on some of these state policy issues that we did in this poll. One of which is there's some legislation that was in the House and the Senate when it came to restricting mobile devices in schools with our students. It's a bell-to-bell policy. What did our research find when we were polling them?
Well, it was a no-brainer. 72% of Pennsylvania voters, Aaron, said they support those bans on cell phone usage in schools by children. And I think it's because of three fundamental reasons.
Okay.
One, it reduces distractions.
Yes.
Classroom distractions. Number two, it's found to have been to improve students' mental health. And number three, there's even a connection to academic performance because the Paragon Health Institute did a study in the UK. They found that the ban on cell phones in schools was linked to a 6.4% increase in academic performance.
How about
now,
that?
It's not causal, but it's correlational.
Correlation.
And that's a big deal.
So obviously, like 3/4 of Pennsylvanians, again, like we talked earlier in the last segment, 80% is a lot. 3/4 is a lot. Obviously, we're not the only state that is looking at having a bell-to-bell policy. How many have like a bell-to-bell? Do you know how many have in the nation?
I don't know how many have bell-to-bell, but it seems like this movement is spreading pretty quickly around the country because as we start to link it to improvements in mental health, improvements in academic performance, once we see a study come out of the United States that's similar to what the UK did, I think you'll see this thing really take off.
I'm very optimistic. Let's shift gears and talk about, using state funds for school lunches in our public schools. There are some students that don't qualify under the federal program for free lunches, but what did voters say about using state funds for this?
A majority of Pennsylvania voters, Aaron, support the use of tax dollars at the state level to really come in and bolster that program that the federal government has provided. And I think what's important about this result, in the poll, we told people not everybody can have everything they want in state government. There's only so many dollars to go around. If you say you want money for one program, it means less money for another. Knowing that, do you still want to allocate state funding for this school lunch program? And 55% of Pennsylvania voters said yes.
That's a pretty amazing number. Do you have any guess of why that might be, or maybe your polling didn't get
No, absolutely. I think families are struggling. Inflation's up. Grocery bills are higher. People look at the state and say, you know what? We think we can do a better job teaching our children and nourishing our children while they're in our care.
Yeah. And obviously, students that are well-fed, we have free breakfast across the state. Obviously, making sure that our kids are getting the free lunches is going to make sure that they have, obviously, full bellies. They're going to be a much better state of mind when it comes to learning. Greater success.
Absolutely.
It's a no-brainer. I'm sure it looks like Pennsylvanians feel the same way.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we told them there are trade-offs in state government.
Sure.
You can't have money for every program.
Yeah.
But this is one they said is worth the ROI.
That's interesting information. Something that we're going to hear a lot more about as we head into the fall season are these congressional elections.
Right.
We've got some very, obviously, hot seats. We've got CD7, which is Bresnahan versus Cognetti. We've got CD8, which is Ryan McKenzie versus Bob Brooks. And then CD10, which is Scott Perry and Janelle Stelson. What's the research telling you there?
That if you look at the margin that Trump got in these districts, particularly CD7, CD8, and CD10, the margins are very small. In other words, Trump didn't carry these districts by big margins. That means they're competitive at the congressional level. I'd also add CD1 to the equation, Aaron. That is based in Bucks County.
Yes.
Kamala Harris carried the 1st congressional district, and I believe it's the ripest district to turn blue this November against the incumbent Republican Brian Fitzpatrick. So those are the 4 key districts to watch. And what's important is the Congress right now is only Republican by 3 seats.
Yes.
A flip of that, and you have a Democrat Congress.
Obviously, Pennsylvania is playing a huge role, and these aren't just concentrated in one area. CD7's up in the northeast part of the state. CD8's the Allentown area, and obviously CD10 down here in the Harrisburg vicinity. Obviously, one other significant election coming up this year. It's the governor election. Josh Shapiro, he is recommended by PSCA. He's a pro-education leader. How's that looking for him real quick before we got to wrap things up today?
Yeah, our polling shows he is in a pretty good position to win re-election. The problem that Stacey Garrity has is similar to the problem that Doug Mastriano had 4 years ago.
Sure.
Stacey Garrity doesn't have the GOP base secured. Mastriano, according to exit polling, lost 16% of the Republican vote. Stacey Garrity needs that back to make this race competitive.
Wow, well, it's tough. We could have talked a lot more. Thank you for the great polling. Can't wait to hear it. And thank you for joining us with Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I hope to see you here again next week. Thank you very much.